Mr. Desmarais, in your view, is the average quality of steel produced here in Canada the same, better or worse than the steel that we import from China?
No question there. I believe that our steel is way better because also we have higher standard when it comes to environmental issues or even labor standards. So even on that regards, definitely better quality.
And I echo that. There's been issues in BC and Victoria. There was a bridge, the Johnson Street Bridge. There's now concerns with the steel used in the Patello Bridge. This all in the backdrop of the current Liberal government pursuing a policy of building Canada, or building Canada strong, as they like to say. Were you disappointed at all to see the deal, a $1 billion deal, to send shipbuilding jobs to China with a below market rate, interest rate loan to create thousands of shipbuildings in China that would use Chinese steel instead of building them here in Canada using Canadian steel? No,
thank you for the question. Very good question. Actually, it shows how difficult it is to address China and its trade policy. I think it would be absolutely impossible for anyone to believe that we can compete on China on many aspects. Just on steel alone, they're highly subsidizing their steel industry. They're also having poor labor standard, environmental standards. So try to compete on them on steel directly is it's impossible. And also for any other type of product or sector where they use steel, because at the base, the commodity that they're using is highly subsidized and impossible to compete with.
Can you maybe go into a bit more detail on how the Chinese steel is subsidized and how same thing happened in shipbuilding where 20 years ago they were at 5% of world capacity, now they're at 50%, and maybe compare the environmental and labor standards employed by Chinese steel companies versus our Canadian steel companies here at home?
Right. I'm not going to necessarily go into the very, very details you're asking me to, but clearly we all know that the average Chinese employee is not earning the same wages that we pay in Canada, for one. We know that on energy, they are also subsidizing a lot of the energy consumed in the steel sector. Still making use a lot of energy, and in China, they're highly subsidizing the energy they're using, for one. And they're also investing massively in R&D at rate or loan parameters that we cannot match as well.
Is the steel industry here in Canada subject to the industrial carbon tax?
It is.
Do you have a rough estimate of how much money the steel industry pays in carbon taxes each year?
I do not have those figures. This is commercially sensitive, and each of our members probably keep those numbers close to their chest.
Is it safe to say that the individual companies in the industry at large would be more competitive internationally if it didn't have to pay an industrial carbon tax, and those lower prices could be passed on to Canadian consumers?
Very good question. Actually, part of your question refers to competing and opening new market, and that for us, whether we have a carbon tax in Canada or not, we don't see this as a possibility for us because there's way too much steel in the world. So we simply cannot compete on the international level on that front.
And that goes back to the subsidization and the dumping of Chinese steel around the world, correct?
Yeah.